All right, hi, this is Mrs. Ivey, and I'm just going to go over how you should be doing this whole Peloponnesian War comic strip timeline. So I'm going to go ahead and read over the directions. It says, congratulations, you will be creating a comic strip about the Peloponnesian Wars. Use the red textbook, pages 213 to 215, to make a comic strip out timeline of the Peloponnesian War. You must include the following years on your timeline. And then I have like this whole big long list of dates. It says, yes, they are mixed up. It's your job to place them in the correct order and tell what happened in that year. In the smaller boxes, you're going to write a description of the event that occurred that year. In the larger boxes, you're going to illustrate or draw a picture that represents the event. And of course, I'm getting ready to post this video on Google Classroom. So, first thing I'm going to look through here is I'm going to see which event happens first. Now, this is going to be much different than how we're normally used to it. So like in the normal world, I could say, hey, 2019 AD occurs before 2020 AD, right? But you got to remember in the BC world, we're going to start with a bigger number here. So the first thing that's going to be happening here, of course, is going to be 431 BC. So I'm just going to write a little 1 right there. And then the next event is going to be 430 BC right there. And then my next greatest number is going to be 421 BC. And then after that, of course, is 415. And then I am looking, oh, and there's 413. That's the 5th event that's happening there. And then the 6th event is going to be 411 BC. And then I'm looking at 405. And then 404 BC is going to be the last event that's going to be happening on our timeline. So I'm going to zoom this in a little bit so you can kind of see what I've done. All right? Okay. So remember I said 431 BC was the first thing that happened. So I'm not going to do this whole thing for you because, you know, I think you guys are pretty smart and you can handle that one on your own. But I am going to take this away and give you all an example of how I would handle doing my comic strip. So here I have my handy dandy comic strip right here. And I know that 431 is going to be my first date that I'm going to put down here. And of course I'm going to put 431 BC. But I still don't know what to write about. So I'm going to go back to my directions, which say I've got to read like pages, I think, 213 to 215 to figure all this fun stuff out. So I'm going to get my handy dandy textbook, and in this case, we're working off the red textbook. So here is the handy dandy red textbook. Yeehaw. All right, so I'm going to open the handy dandy. Oh, and what do you know? I opened it right to the Peloponnesian War here. Okay, so here we are. It says, important differences existed between the city-states of Athens and Sparta. For example, Athens had a democratic government, while Sparta had a culture that glorified military strength. Both wanted to be the most powerful city-state in the region. This competition led to clashes between the two city-states and their allies. Outbreak of the war. Several factors led to war. Some city-states feared Athens because of its grab for power and prestige. Under the leadership of Pericles, Athens had grown from a city-state to a naval empire. The other city-states also resented that Athens spent money from the Delian League to beautify its city. The money was intended for the protection of all city-states in the League, not for rebuilding Athens. This conflict led to several city-states to try to break free of Athenian power, but Pericles punished the city-states that resisted the authority of Athens. Sparta headed a league of city-states to stand up to the power of the Athenian Empire. This league is called the Peloponnesian League because many of the city-states were located on the Peloponnesus. That's that peninsula there. Finally, in 431 BC, Sparta declared war on Athens. This conflict became known as the Peloponnesian War. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so now that I have like my first little handy dandy date there, I am going to get out my handy dandy comic strip. Yeehaw. All right, so kind of keeping that close by, I have 431 written down. And what did I just read? Oh, hey, I just read that in 431, Sparta declared war on Athens, and this conflict is known as the Peloponnesian War. So what I'm going to write is going to be that Sparta declares war on Athens. Sparta, here we go, Sparta declares war. And yours is going to look better than mine. And then, since I've got a little bit of extra room down here, I'm going to write Peloponnesian War begins. And I know I ran out of space, and if I had a pencil, I would redo it, but for today's purposes, I am not. And then, of course, up here, I might write something like, do a little stick figure of dude from Sparta, but you guys will probably do something a lot better. And I could say, yo, Athens. It's on. Okay, and then I could have this little guy from Athens going, okay, Sparta. Bring it, right? But you guys can probably come up with something far more creative than I have. Okay? But that's your model for that, okay? And I'm going to come over here and continue reading, because I know a lot of you guys like having the book read to you, and that's fine. We can do that. All right, so I'm coming back over here. So now I'm flipping over to 415. I got a nice handy-dandy little map there. You guys can check it out. And then I'm going to come down here and talk about how war is going to rage on. Okay, it says each side in the war had distinct advantages. Sparta had the better land-based military force. Since Sparta was located far inland, it could not be attacked by sea. Athens had the better navy and could strike Sparta's allies by sea. The city of Athens had a strong harbor, and money from its empire helped pay for the war. These differences shaped the war strategy of each side. Athens' strategy was to avoid battles on land and to rely on its sea power. I'm going to flip this up a little bit. This is getting in my way. A narrow strip of land near Corinth connected the Peloponnesus to the rest of Greece. The Athenians focused their attacks on this strip, hoping to block Sparta's land route to Athens. So this little strip that they're talking about over here is this little doodah right here. Y'all see that? Okay, great. All right, so now we're back down to Sparta's strategy was to force Athens to fight on land. The Spartans took control of the countryside around Athens and tried to cut off the Athenian food supply by destroying crops. Pericles persuaded the Athenians to allow the Spartans to destroy the countryside. He brought people from the areas surrounding Athens inside the city walls for safety. Athens could be supplied with food by sea. However, the city became badly overcrowded. In 430 BC, the second year of the war, a plague broke out in Athens. A plague, hey, there's another date, just FYI there. A plague is a disease that spreads easily and usually causes death. Athens lost as many as 1/3 of its people and armed forces to the disease. The most notable victim was Pericles. He is the leader. After 10 years of war, neither side had made much progress in defeating the other. In 421 BC, Athens and Sparta signed a truce. Hey, there's another date, guys. Or an agreement to stop fighting. However, neither side obeyed the terms of the agreement for very long, and battles soon broke out again. Imagine that. In 415 BC, Athens launched an attack on Sicily in order to cut off supplies to Sparta. Initially, the plan worked, but in 413 BC, I'm seeing a couple dates here, a Spartan counterattack killed or captured all of the Athenian army forces on Sicily and destroyed much of Athens' navy. Ruh-roh. Sparta attacked Athens again in 411 BC. The Persians joined the war against Athens and helped Sparta improve its navy. Boy, history's a funny thing. Athens repelled the attackers for a while, but in 405 BC, the Spartan navy captured the Athenian fleet. Athens finally surrendered to Sparta in 404 BC. Consequences of the war. The Peloponnesian War lasted over 27 years. Cities and crops were destroyed and thousands of Greeks died. All of the Greek city-states suffered losses of economic and military power. To the north of the Greek city-states in Macedonia, King Philip II came to power in 359 BC. He looked south toward the weakened Greek city-states as he planned to build an empire. And that's setting things up for Alexander the Great. All right. Hope you have fun making this comic book. Talk to you later.